Welcome to the Podunk Polymath, a podcast dedicated to the sentiments of the secular, sarcastic, screwed up Southern SJW and skeptic. I'm your host, Chris. Come on in. This is episode 56 of the Podunk Polymath podcast. Hope y'all are doing super spectacularly well. I myself been drinking a little bit, but I'm not too fucked up, so that's something, I suppose. This week on the pre-ramble, I don't really have much going on as far as anything spectacular going on. Of course, Trump. I mean, shit. What can you say anymore? This time he has said that people who do not stand for the pledge, well, speaking specifically about people who kneel, football players who kneel, calling them sons of bitches, and of course, I'm sure he's talking about them generally, but I'm sure Kaepernick was high in his mind. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah, a sitting president calling somebody a son of a bitch for, basically doing their privilege as an American, free speech and all that. But hey, don't let that worry you or anything. They're Orange Overlord, Chitler, or whatever the fuck you want to call his ass. I can't. What a time we live in when this fuckstick is our president. So, yeah, awesome. So yeah, once again, for the trillionth time, go fuck yourself there, Trumpster. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, that's the main thing going on as far as that goes. I don't really, like I said, have anything major to expound upon this week. I don't think, unless I'm forgetting something, but I don't think I am. I did want to read something. Actually, I had gotten this in June, and I'm just now remembering I had it. I talked to this gentleman last night over some minor brew that was going on in my page, which I won't even get into because it's a little silly. He said, James Coltis said, I had a thought at work the other day that I want to share. Your podcast is one of the warmest, most welcoming podcasts. You've got the smarts and the hearts, and you're one of the reasons I'm so thankful to have discovered Skeptical Atheist podcast. And like I said, I was in June. I said I was going to share it, but my memory's shit. Maybe I will say a little bit about what happened. It's kind of silly, really. I unfriended somebody, and they took it personally, apparently, and decided to call me out. Now, the only way you know that somebody unfriends you is if you go look, because you don't get a notification or anything. So that tells me, and this was within like 20 minutes of me doing it. So that means your ass was out fucking monitoring the shit to see if I unfriended you. Then you put a post up saying that I unfriended you and calling me out for it. Really? I mean, really? That's kind of pathetic. And by tagging me, of course, all my friends could see, well, I don't give a fuck about that. But then he gets all his friends and let's rip on Chris because he's, what an asshole, even though you're the childish motherfucker who put it up there. Whatever. That move pretty much just cemented my desire to get rid of his ass. So, there's that. It's always good to be reinforced, positive actions when stupid shit happens. But anyway, on the palaver this week, I have with me a gentleman I have been speaking to on Facebook for a while, but finally got to meet at Secular Saturday in Chattanooga. Though he says we met, he knew who I was at NanoCon, but I don't remember. Again, my shitty memory. Stephen Barry. He's kind of an activist. Well, he's not really. I guess, sort of. He's been on Cass Medley's show. Of course, everyone's agnostic. He was on another show about his deconversion. That's what he spoke about on Cass's show. But on this particular show, he spoke about racism and his experiences with it living in the South. And, of course, everybody knows that there is no more racism since Obama was elected. No, just kidding. It's even worse. But anyway, yeah, we have a conversation about that, just mostly, and then, of course, we just talk about different stuff, but mostly that. I enjoyed talking to him. It was cool to meet him on Secular Saturday, which I may have mentioned. I'm sure I did. But he's a good guy, and I think you'll enjoy listening to him talk. But I hope you do. So on to the palaver.
I'm Dustin.
And I'm Wesley.
We host the Atheist Nomads podcast.
We're godless geeks who take a skeptical look at
politics, religion, science, technology, and history.
We also interview leaders in the atheist, skeptic, and humanist community.
Check us out at atheistnomads.com.
That's atheistnomads.com.
Hi, this is Dan. Brian,
and Matt.
with the Godless Revolution podcast. We've had a lot of great guests on this show.
Such as Russell Glasser, Dan Harrell, Brian Fields, David Silverman, Doug Mesner, a.k.a. Lucian Greaves, and Joey Kirkman, whom we love a lot.
We've also had a lot of really cool local guests. And we're a podcast that likes to fight for the separation of church and state and against anti-skepticism of all kinds.
You should give us a listen, because if you don't, you're going to be really sad.
Make your ears happy. Listen to the Godless Revolution podcast.
Welcome to another edition of Palaver here on the Podunk Playmath podcast. This week I have with me somebody I have met him on Facebook. He has also been on a couple podcasts, met him on at Secular Saturday in Chattanooga not too long ago. He is a badass atheist dude. His name is Stephen Barry. How's it going, Stephen?
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. We were supposed to do this last night, but, that's all good. We're here in the morning, a little hungover, but, you're old. When you're old, that's what happens.
Yeah, I was just tired. I worked pretty late. I've been working over a lot, so I just couldn't do it.
That's all good.
But, here we are.
So, like I said, we met at Secular Saturday in Chattanooga, and I forgot when that was exactly. It was a couple of months ago. But we'd actually been friends on Facebook for quite a while before that, I believe. We just never met in person.
Well, I remember you from NanoCon. You probably didn't remember me because I didn't really make myself known like that. But I went to the podcaster thing there, and I think that's when I added everybody's podcast to my app. And I didn't necessarily listen to everybody, but I tried to. I at least started an episode of everybody. But yeah, love the podcast stuff, man.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were there. Maybe, I don't know. I have such shitty memory. It's hard for me to remember anything.
I'm pretty sure none of you, I'm good friends with Tucker now, and I know Jen, and the only person I knew was Cass, because he was the first podcast that I went on, and we've become pretty good friends. I've been down to Murfreesboro a lot. So, yeah. But the rest of you guys probably didn't remember me until Secular Saturday.
Yeah, because we talked about meeting there anyway, so.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. You were on Cass's show. How'd that come about?
It was just different people connecting me with, giving me podcasts as resources to kind of not necessarily connect with the atheist community, but just to here's something, you might want to listen to this. And then, I heard Cass on the podcast, and then I added him on Facebook because I Facebook stalk people a lot. As soon as I meet new people, I'll see if they're on Facebook, and I'll just go ahead and add them, usually. That rarely happens for me. It's rarely the other way around. But I added Cass, and I think we exchanged a few messages, and he was like, hey, why don't you come on the show? And I was like, really? I don't know if I want to do that, because I talked about some stuff that was not necessarily public knowledge, is still not necessarily public knowledge, but it's public now. But I just didn't want to put myself out there like that, but I decided to go for it. And it was a good experience. I was on, can't remember what episode number it was, but it was in the 130s, something like that. Might have been 139. And more recently, I was on Voices of Deconversion, and they split my episode into two parts because we talked for a very long time on Skype. So, but yeah, it's good to be able to have a conversation with like-minded individuals, and it's a community thing. I like it.
Community thing is really important. I find that this is the first real community I've been in contact with ever, hardly, that's I've been this involved in.
Yeah.
I'm mostly a loner, so
Yeah.
I don't generally do, community stuff, but this has been good for me. I think it's good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who typically are, introverts, I guess, keep to themselves. So, so you're on Cass's show. What did you talk about briefly? Your deconversion. That's right. Was that the gist of it?
Yeah, for the most part. Talked about my deconversion. Talked about just being a black atheist is, and also being gay. Just all those things wrapped in one. It's kind of difficult. I'm trying to live my life like everyone else. So it doesn't always feel like it's this huge burden or anything like that. But sometimes it is frustrating. Sometimes it is kind of depressing and lonely. But, that's kind of what I talked about there. And a little bit more in depth on the Voices of Deconversion episode. But, I guess the way that I would present myself to most people who don't know me, or even people who knew me before when I was a Christian and have not seen me in several years, I'm just a human being who is here, and I love people, and I'm trying to figure life out, and I don't have an agenda. I don't have all the answers, and I don't pretend to think that I do. And, that's what it is. That's essentially who I am. Obviously, I'm more nuanced than that, but, that's it. Like whatever those labels might make people think of me, I'm just a human being just like you, and I care about people. I want to be happy. I want other people to be happy, and that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, that's... I just assumed that you're an atheist. You ate babies and worship Satan and shit. But it's good to know that you don't do those things. You're just a regular person. Imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So I wanted to have you on. We discussed briefly earlier about this, but kind of the idea of race in the South, racism in the South. Now, of course, nobody understands that better, I'm sure, than you do. And, of course, if you're white, you can say you understand it, but I don't think you really do if you're not a victim of it or whatever. So, let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So what have your experiences been in that arena as far as, discrimination and such?
It's, like when I was really sheltered as a kid and, just growing up, I was living with my mom. My parents divorced when I was like 12. So like single parent home for like the whole teenage era. And I never really understood. I don't feel like I understood racism fully. Like I understood it to a certain extent because of what my mom would tell me, and because of like the knowledge I had of like Black history, and you'll watch movies like A Time to Kill or like Malcolm X or stuff like that, so like, racism exists, but you don't really know the full extent of what it is because you think, oh, well, now things are better. Or at least that's the idea I kind of had in my head. And I've always had a lot of white friends. I've always had a lot of people of different backgrounds that were friends of mine. So I've never kind of been just like in the tribal mentality to where like everyone I associate has to look like me and do the same things that I do. But as I've gotten older, especially since I've been in Tennessee, I've seen a lot of stuff that has just really opened my eyes. The last job that I was at, I was working at one of the major hospitals in this area, and I worked there for, I want to say 7 years. It might not actually be 7, but it was definitely close. And I cleaned surgery rooms and I transported patients. And it was a very shitty job. I did not get paid very much, and I never got a raise. And while I was working, I also went to school full time to be a surgical tech. And I completed the program, and by the time I completed it, I was trying to find a job, and I was already working at one of the major hospitals. So even when I first got in the program, everyone in my class was just like, oh, you're going to get a job. No problem. It's not fair because you already work there. So, they just knew I was going to get a job. And there were two other black people in my class. One of them quit, and the other one, I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but he didn't get a surgical tech job. Everyone else in my class did. I saw them come through the hospital, and there's another hospital. There's like two major hospitals in this area, and I work at the other one now. But I was just like, I'm not trying to read racism into this, but it's just kind of funny. That's just how I kept feeling. I knew all the coordinators. I knew all the people in charge of the surgery area, and they all knew that I had just completed school. So, I talked to them. I'd be like, hey, I need a job. I just graduated, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, we haven't forgotten about you. We just posted something. You should apply for it. And, it'd be this vicious cycle. It just kept going on over and over again. And every time I went to work, people would ask me, how come you haven't gotten a job yet? And I'm like, how come they haven't hired me yet? And that went on for 2 years after I graduated. And it just got really depressing. But I was still kind of holding out hope that they were going to hire me. Even at that same hospital that I was working at, there was a patient that remarked to me, there sure are a lot of colored folk working here. And I was like, what?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry?
There was a patient that remarked to me at the previous hospital that I was working at. He was like, there sure are a lot of colored folk working here.
No,
and
I was like, I was saying that because, excuse me, what you say?
Yeah. And I was like, I said that twice, and he repeated himself twice. And I was just like, I didn't, because I've never been personally confronted with that, so, and, I think a lot of it is ignorance. Even though I don't believe that that's the root of racism, it might be the part of the root of prejudice, but, yeah, man, it's crazy.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. So, is it that you say that's the main thing, one of the main things you remember? But do you think there are other more subtle ways that this kind of manifests itself, this sort of discrimination, or because we live in the South, and of course, generally they're not too shy about it, but at least that's what I've observed. But I mean, it may be different because it's one thing to think that way, but it's another thing when you actually meet that person, looking at them face to face. They're a little more reticent a lot of times to actually say anything. So
yeah, I mean, it's not like I've necessarily had conversations with neo-Nazis or anything. Even though I did come in contact with some of them when I was transporting patients, they'd have the tats and all that good stuff. But for the most part, I would say since that experience and then just seeing the different things that I see in the media and just talking to more people about it, it's one thing to feel things are better and then just have this kind of idealist perspective. So you're not thinking about it. You're not engaging with what is a reality, because you can look at any kind of tragedy or sad or bad thing and just be like, oh, that's sad. And then that's the how to not deal with it is just to be like, oh, that's sad, or I'm sorry, or, you know, let's pray for those people, or like whatever your thing is. But that kind of keeps you from like, okay, what can I do about it? Or, you know, how can I be informed about this? Or, you know, inserting yourself into the narrative. It's easier just to be like, well, you know, whatever. So, but yeah, more subtle stuff is just kind of, you know, the shit that everyone thinks is racism that isn't, you know, like that guy, you know, telling me there's a lot of colored folks that work here, which I guess in his mind was supposed to be a good thing because he's just randomly seeing a lot of black people employed by the hospital. It's not like they're managers or doctors or, you know, but, you know, nurses maybe, but, like to him. So like, yeah, that's a good thing. And he's saying that to me like, yeah, isn't that good? So, you know, like a lot of the subtle stuff, if you think deeply about it, there's a deeper root to it, which, you know, it usually goes to like ignorance or just being oblivious to what's going on to other people around you. And so I try not to be that person anymore. Like, it's weird because I can kind of see a little bit of both sides just because I've been kind of oblivious, you know, at a certain stage in my life. But now I'm trying to have these conversations, especially with other white people, because I realize that often I'm the only person who's going to have those conversations. Like, there's like, in general, black people are not, and this is generalization, you know, they're not going out of their way to have these kind of conversations because it's hard and it can be painful. And because a lot of white people are not willing to listen, you know, just listen and be able to receive someone else's perspective that's different from theirs. That might make them feel uncomfortable. You know, you don't want to feel like you're a bad person because that's the worst thing in the world. Like, bad feelings are the worst. Avoid those at all costs. So, yeah, that's kind of what I try to do.
So, yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I mean, I don't know. People are strange. A lot of times they won't say anything to your face about stuff. I mean, like that guy you were talking about, to me, that's just, my grandmother would probably say some shit like that. Well, she passed,
yeah.
But my grandmother used to call black people colored.
Really?
Yeah, but she's pretty old. I mean, I don't think she knew any better, but she's pretty racist anyway, but.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she wasn't necessarily blatant about it, but yeah, you could tell you can't use the excuse that you were raised that way. I mean, people try to use that excuse, and I'm not buying that shit. You know, I mean, you can come out of that. You know, you can see that it's not right, and that you shouldn't judge people based on anything, you know, like that. So
yeah, but I think it's just like they're not looking at it as judging, or they're not like, it's not a problem until you encounter somebody that is offended by that. You know, it's like, oh, why are you offended? You know, like, I think the disconnect is that they're not intentionally trying to be racist or, you know, prejudiced or whatever, you know. So when it happens, it's like you're overreacting or you're making a big deal out of nothing because I didn't mean to to get this reaction. You know, that's not the reaction I wanted. It was for you to be upset. You know, you're supposed to just accept what I'm giving.
Well, that's white privilege, pretty much. I mean, when you talk about, you know, you're like the majority, you're like, you know, almost the default, as it were, and you say something to somebody who's not of your, I guess, your skin tone, and whatever you want to call it, and you're trying to be nice, and what they consider to be nice, and you get upset about it. They're like, I'm just saying things. Why are you getting so mad, man? I'm paying you a compliment or something like that. It's like they don't even understand why they piss people off, and why they're upset, and then they get their feels hurt because you're not on the ground bending the knee and begging them for thanking them for even looking upon you, your lowly ass or something. I mean,
yeah, I just something just came to mind. There's another thing. This isn't really like an experience, but it's just kind of funny. I used to work at a grocery store, and one day there was this old white guy that came through my line, and I don't know if he was drunk or like on one or something, but he was just being kind of loud and just really off the cuff. And I asked him if he wanted like paper or plastic or whatever, and he's like, I always use paper. I only ever use paper. Only black people use plastic bags. And I was just like, what does that even mean? Like, I was speechless the whole time. He just kept, he was saying other random stuff, and, there's this chick behind him. He turned around to her and said, oh, you wouldn't get lost in a crowd. Like, he was just being like kind of an ass, but it wasn't making sense. 'Cause like, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. I don't understand what, I don't get it. Or is he saying that plastic is some way substandard?
I don't think there's like a whole lot of logic behind it. I think that, if there is, I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard that before, but that was kind of funny. Like, it sticks out in my mind, but yeah.
You sound like you've been a little luckier than some, maybe.
Well, yeah, like I was really sheltered, and my mom wanted to make sure that my sister and I were not, that we wouldn't be in any trouble, or that we wouldn't, that we would be okay. And she made a lot of sacrifices to make that happen. So, I realized that my experience could be totally and completely different from how it is. So yeah.
When you say you're sheltered, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I was raised in a Christian home, and my mom took a lot of time to like teach me things herself. She wasn't like just working and I was going to public school and I was, being raised by the teachers, or, just being around these random kids where random things can happen. And, public school is brutal. And even though like I can look back on it and say that, I could probably handle it or whatever, but, you never know how things are going to turn out. And I didn't grow up in the hood or anything, I grew up in the suburbs a lot of the time. When my parents were together, my dad was in the military. So even though I was kind of raised in the South, I didn't grow up in the South. Like, I was in Maryland for a little bit. We were in Hawaii for a few years. So we kind of bounced around. And, I wasn't exposed to something that, like, even, like, your average black person from Tennessee, from someone that's born and raised here, like, their experiences are different than mine. Like, things that I was getting hip to after I got here, they already knew, as far as, like, discrimination and just the ways that you have to move to kind of navigate through certain things. That's why I spent 6 or 7 years at a job that paid me very poorly and that did not want to see me move up. Because I was thinking, well, they're gonna do right by me, or they're gonna, why wouldn't they? So, yeah.
So I didn't know you were a military brat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was an Air Force brat, so that definitely puts a different spin on things because you definitely get different experiences, I think, when you're in the military. You kind of get a wider view of how things are and the world in general. I think more people, should be required to travel more. I mean, because you get stuck in the same area for too long and you start getting kind of, your thinking doesn't go outside your little, town or whatever, your area, then that's how you get ignorant people, I guess,
Right.
So yeah, that experience for you is great, because I noticed that when I was moving around, there's a lot of difference, especially on base. I was in the Air Force brat, but if you were on base or something, everybody kind of pulled together and kind of helped you. The moms or whatever, would get together and help each other and shit. So, I mean, there was definitely a sense of family there, and I think that and that was regardless of skin color. I mean, it's kind of the only color you were cared about was, green or whatever, So yeah, that's definitely a different experience for you. I mean, now of course that doesn't mean you still didn't experience it, like you said, but
yeah.
At the same time, it is just a different context, I guess. I mean, but I've heard stories of people, just getting randomly shouted at from cars, getting called the N-word and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I haven't had that experience. In fact, I don't think any white person has ever, well, not in that way. Like, I've had, like, some young white kids try to, like, use the N-word, like how it'll be used amongst other black people. And like, I've never been offended by that, or because my thing is like, we've been using the word as kind of like, kind of turning it on its head, and like, not hip hop didn't start that. It was like being used before that. But I think because of hip hop kind of exposing it, like it wasn't like a thing, like, yeah, black people are using it, but it's being publicly shown or like heard. So now you have people that, want to use the word because like now, like we've almost made it a cool thing, or like because hip hop is cool, hip hop culture is cool. So, so I've had like a couple of white kids, or, white dudes my age do that. And I'm just like, yeah, I just feel like you're trying too hard. Like, I'm not offended by that. I'm not going to tell anybody, no, you can't say that. No. I mean, I don't know why you would want to say it, but I mean, like, that's on you. Like, I feel like a lot of people, if you're ignorant about something, or if I don't even think that that's a thing you can really be ignorant on, just because of the history of the word. So, like, even if you, like, you're a young white kid and you listen to Jay-Z for the first time, or Tupac for the first time or something, and, you just start saying the word, it's something that you're not going to be able to say very long without without getting a reaction. So like for me, when that has happened, it's just kind of been like, if that's the look you want, that's on you. But yeah, like no white person has ever like called me that, or I've never like had like civil rights level like throwing rocks through my window or shit like that, So I think a lot of things are different about racism just like as time has progressed, but I think the idea that it's not a problem is probably more dangerous than it just still actually being a problem. Because that means it can just continue and get worse, and nobody's going to do anything about it, or nobody who actually has the power to affect and change anything. Because black people can say, you know, Black Lives Matter and, you know, whatever, you know. I almost feel like, because, you know, there's so many negative opinions about Black Lives Matter, even from white people that are liberal and progressive, and I'm not even so much talking about the group itself, but just the phrase, that I almost feel like it should have just been like, police stop killing us niggas. You know, like it should have been like something like, okay, you cannot get this misconstrued at all, because I know your hurt feelings are very important. So please know that we're not saying Black lives are the only lives that matter and all other humans don't. You know, if you're just looking for a moment to feel bad about yourself, or I don't know. But yeah, black people can say that all day long, and I don't think that that is going to change anything, because black people have been protesting for I don't know how long. And I feel like that's done about as much good as it's going to do. It's frustrating, you know, to see stuff like Charlottesville and just the atmosphere that Trump has created. But I don't see, like, just to put it bluntly, I feel like white people got to get rid of it, and, you know, or at least give the authority to black people to, like, educate white people to get rid of it, you know. But otherwise, you know, it's just this constant battle of, like, hurt feelings and, you know, the myth that ignorance and, like, so if you educate someone, or, you know, if you just love everybody, I love everybody regardless of what their color is or whatever, that those things, even though they're good, they're not going to get rid of racism either. Because at the end of the day, racism is started by self-interest and just discriminatory policies, you know. So, like, I can say, you know, like, even with slavery, it's like, well, whoever initially decided that, hey, this would be a good thing for America, or wherever, you know, wherever slavery is going on, like, hey, I want to make money. I can make money by enslaving these people, and, you know, they do work for me. It's like, well, how are we going to do that? Other people, so there's some people that aren't going to be cool with that. Well, we're going to have to convince them that these people are barbaric, or, you know, they're, you know, not intelligent enough, or they're, you know, and all these stereotypes come into play, you know, and then you acclimate people to these stereotypes, and, you know, then, you know, hatred breeds, you know. So it's the kind of thing to where, like, I feel like people just don't get the full scope of what it is. And because they can't even get to the point where they do, that it's just constantly, you know, it's like everybody spinning their wheels is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue that I don't think a lot of people really realize the full scope of. I mean, it's just this whole idea, like, this post-racial society is just ridiculous. I mean, just because Obama got elected doesn't mean, like, racism, like, somehow automatically went away or something. You know, I mean, we saw that when the backlash and Trump got elected. I mean, good God. It's all these people are coming out of the damn woodwork, all these, you know, racist and neo-Nazi types and shit. It's really pretty scary, a lot of this is. I mean, and we're seeing...
Well, I mean, if they didn't exist, the system would have changed. Yeah. So, I mean, that didn't surprise me, but what has surprised me is just how much people have really, like, the things I see now, like, in, like I said, the atmosphere that he's created, it's so blatant and obvious. And people don't care. There's people who still ride for the guys, people who voted for him, and it's no problem. He's doing a great job, and that kind of thing surprised me because I remember when they were giving Bush a hard time, and at the time, like, I understood why, and I wasn't even that into politics at that time. I mean, I'm still not really into politics, but I didn't understand as much as I do now. And I was thinking, he's not that bad. Like, he's not great, but, they gave him a really hard time, And I mean, I'm not saying people don't give Trump a hard time, as he should get. But there is just enough people. Like, I don't see him going anywhere, Like, I almost feel like, it doesn't matter what he does. Like, what is the thing that could get him out? I don't know. I think it's, it's impossible. Unless people just, the consensus is that he's not handling things well. So as long as it looks like he's handling things well, he'll be fine. So,
yeah, that's, I think, one of the things that's really scared a lot of people, even though people who've been paying attention are not surprised at all by these people supporting him, I think. Some people are like, yeah, we've been seeing this coming the whole time. Where the hell y'all been? I mean, he has insulted just about every group you can think of, men, women, LGBT, fucking disabled people. He's talking about, basically raping women. I mean, he's done just about everything, and people still, now some of them are falling away now, but he still have a pretty rabid base, and these are the people that I think we should be very afraid of, these people who vote for.
Yeah.
Even after everything he's done, I mean, if you're still supporting him, I got to question what the fuck's wrong with you, to be honest. I don't know what's going on with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling, like, even like rape culture and stuff like that. Like, I didn't realize how big of a deal. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't realize how prevalent it was until the video came out on him. And I watched like reaction videos, like a lot of stuff like that on YouTube. And there was a thing out where it had people from all ages, different races, reacting to the last election cycle. And so it got to that part of it, and there was like maybe 2 or 3 people. It was like maybe like a group of like 20. There was like 2 or 3 people that were like, this is disgusting, this is bad, he shouldn't be president, all of this. And I think it was like a Polish woman, maybe another minority, I can't remember exactly what. And I think they're all women. There were no guys in the group were they were all defending him. They're like, I've said worse, or if I had a camera on me or a recorder on me every time I said something like that. And then that didn't really surprise me as much, but like all the women that were just kind of like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It was a long time ago. It was, like they're making all these excuses for him. And I was just like, wow, really? Like, and, people don't care. It's just like, whatever, if a black rapper said something like that, he would get blackballed. He would get his sponsors dropped. He would be, he would have to apologize and like all types of shit. But, it's no problem for Trump because he's Trump. It's like a combination of like the celebrity kind of like Teflon shit mixed with like the misogyny. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't get that. I really don't understand how especially if you're a woman, how you can vote for a guy like that. I mean, I do understand because it's a lot of internalized misogyny, I think.
I mean, if you feel like that's how all guys think, or, the general populace, like, well, we'll let it slide, or, like, because it's not even that, the fact that he said the initial things he said, like, he could have said, oh, like, she's got a fat ass, I want to fuck her, or, like, whatever. I mean, it's crude, but, I mean, yeah, guys say stuff like that all the time, but he was specifically saying that because I'm a star, I can do anything I want to a woman and they will let me. And that is the definition of rape. If we want to get Bill Cosby all the way out of here, and R. Kelly and, anybody else that's had issues with this kind of stuff, why is Trump exempt from that?
Because he's rich, a rich white guy.
Right. I was going to say, those other two people I mentioned are rich. Like, it's just very obvious stuff that it's hard for me to believe that people are just, like, not seeing the same things I'm seeing.
They do. They just don't care. And I think a lot of it has to do with the culture of this country has always been kind of, looking out for me first, basically. This, me mentality. And we're also, I don't know if you've heard this phrase, just embarrassed millionaires. That's the kind of way that people see themselves, like, well, I'll be rich soon, or whatever. So for some reason, a lot of people cape for guys like Trump because they see, like, what they could be or something, I guess. And of course, a lot of it is also they just have a lot of internalized misogyny or racism and everything else. They're just not. It's not manifesting itself in other ways. But you vote for a guy like that, yeah, you've got something going on inside of you that at least implicitly supports some of that shit. I mean, I don't see how you can have a guy that does so many of those fucked up things and then act like you're somehow just not at least condoning it, even if you're not actively participating.
Yeah. Oh, there was something else that I just remembered since we're talking about Trump. So at my job, I want to say a few months ago, there was a time where there was a bunch of us in the break room, and everyone in there just at the time happened to be black. And they had the news on, and it was talking about Trump and, just him tweeting and, like, taking shots at people and stuff. And he, so we just started talking about Trump because it was on the TV. And, we were saying the things that black people would say about Trump, like whatever you can imagine, we were saying it. And so this older white woman came in, and I guess she sat down to have her lunch or whatever. So we were still going on about him. And so when there was like a little break, she came in and she was like, and all of that stuff you're saying about him isn't true. And, he is a good businessman. And, that's why you're not supposed to talk about politics at work or whatever. So you better watch your mouth, or, you better, and I'm just like, like, I'm glad that nobody, like, everybody just kind of like paid her no mind, because like the way that she was talking was not positive. Like, it was almost kind of like a little threatening a little bit, but not like, I mean, she's like a mid-60s-year-old white woman, so like I don't think anyone was like scared or anything, but it was just kind of like really, like, that's how you're gonna respond to this situation. Like, if you wanted to have an actual conversation, you could, but and like the thing I said to her was like, well, does it matter if it's true or not? Because he's president. So what are we You know, like in this room, what are we going to do about it? What can we do about it? You know? So she was just like, well, you know, like she didn't really have anything to say. But, you know, that was just kind of my thing. Like, there's no need for that kind of response. Even if you feel passionate about Trump and you feel like everyone else is wrong and you liberals and like whatever. This how not to engage with people, how not to have a conversation is that right there. And I think that's a big part of why the political system is the way that it is. Like, you know, we could seriously, I almost feel like there's more stipulations on like a radio show contest than running for president. Like we could like put a Kardashian could run next time and they'd win because they're famous and everyone knows them. And if they're well liked or just liked enough, they don't even have to be well liked. They just have to have enough of a core fan base. That's it.
That's what it's come down to, though. Celebrity culture, I think, has always been a problem in this country. You know, people worship celebrities, it seems like. And you're right. I think that's part of the reason he got elected. You know, it's because he was different. He wasn't a politician or whatever. You know, regardless if he actually had any good ideas or if he was a good person or anything. He was different. He wasn't a politician. Let's elect somebody that's not a politician.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if fucking Charles Manson ran, would you fucking vote for him too? I mean, not that he's in prison, but obviously. But, you know, it's just, I understand there being like this sort of discontent with politicians and the same old shit, blah, blah, blah. But when you vote for somebody like that, you're basically talking about burning down the whole the whole fucking thing.
Well, that's what some people wanted, I think. I think some people have that motivation. And I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go about things. Like, if the system is going to be restructured, it's not, because what you think the end result you might want from the whole system burning down could be something completely worse. You know, it might not be, okay, now we're going to be more libertarian and we're going to be more whatever your ideal is. People who voted with that mindset, that's, you are not in control of the situation, so you don't know where this could end up.
And plus the fact that discounts, you know, people of color, basically.
Well, yeah.
You know?
I mean, when I went to vote, and maybe it's just because of my area or whatever, I counted like maybe 6 other minorities, and I stood in line for like at least an hour. And I think they were all black. You know, I didn't even see any, you know, Spanish, Latino, anybody, Asian, nothing else. So the rest of them were just old white people. So, like, I already knew what time it was, you know. And, I mean, this is, you know, obviously not a liberal state. So, but, yeah, man, it's crazy. But, you know, it is. I'm not depressed about it.
Oh, really? Well, then you're one of the few, because, well, I don't know what depressed is really the right word. I mean, I
don't spend my free time worrying about, you know, I do what I can, and I can only do so much. There's some people that can do more because they have more influence and more power and more pull. I'm not one of those people. So I try to have conversations with people, and that's, you know, I vote. Which, honestly, voting feels like a pageantry. Like, it doesn't really feel like it does anything, especially for me. Now, for other people, it might not be the same thing. But I do it anyway, just because it is a right, and I'm gonna exercise it. You know, I don't think my mom has ever voted. I think she told that to me over the last election cycle, And I kind of get why she hasn't, you know, probably because of her religious perspective and just a lot of other things. Like, you know, you feel like your vote doesn't matter. And that's how I feel. But I mean, I'm still going to do it anyway. Just really just kind of like say that you did. Like, it's kind of hard to like talk a lot of shit and you're like, well, you didn't even vote. So, you know, but yeah, I'm just not, I'm concerned, but I'm not, you know, I'm going to move on with my life and I'm going to navigate the best way that I can. And, you know, if we end up watching the world burn, you know, we'll have some fun before it does. So.
Well, you sound like an optimist.
I mean, what else can you do? Like, from this vantage point, what can you do? Like, I mean, there's probably more I could do, and I figure that out, I'll do it. You know? But, you know, for right now, it's a sunny day outside. It's my birthday. Life isn't too bad. There's some things I wish that were better in my own personal life, but I'm working on those things. You know.
So you make me sick. I just want to tell you that right now. All your ridiculous optimism. Be cynical like me. Okay.
I'm actually more cynical than you probably think. Like, I'm very cynical, but I have to like I'm also trying to be a realist. And, like, being cynical all the time is not being realistic because life is not as bad as you think it is. It's pretty bad a lot of the time, but especially for a lot of us who are not, like, in, like, third world countries or, you know, forget Trump. It's, like, some real shit going on in other countries that people don't know about. Like, complete chaos. But, you know, life is not that bad. It's not. Like, it is what it is, you know? So, and sometimes just feeling better or, you know, just thinking things through and trying to find the positive is, you know, all that we have. So, you know, like I feel like we're almost like programmed to zero in on like whatever the negative thing is. Like, you could have had a great day yesterday, but the one bad thing that happened, that's the thing you're going to focus on, you know? Like, forget all that good shit that happened, like, the other, like, 12 hours of the day. Like, this one thing fucked everything up. So.
Well, it just depends. I think a lot of it's just as a person. Some people are just naturally more cynical than others, I guess, and some people are just more optimistic. You know, I guess it just depends. I mean, you can change that. I mean, I try not to be overly cynical all the time because it's depressing and I don't need any help with depression or anxiety because I got plenty of that already. But sometimes it's really difficult, you know, when you see what's going on, especially if you are somebody that's constantly plugged into, like, you know, social justice stuff and politics and stuff like that. It's definitely something that can bring you down quickly. I mean, you need to practice self-care, definitely, which... I mean, I work 2 jobs. On the weekends, I'd fucking do this and I drink. So, I don't know. Maybe I need to do
You work 2 jobs?
Yeah, during the week. Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I work for the state, and then I work at Kroger.
What do you do for the state?
Just stupid shit. It's nothing important. It's just, I'm a supervisor. Yeah. I try not to go in that too much.
Okay, all right. So you sold your soul to the government.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's good that you have that attitude, I guess. It helps you kind of get through things. And again, I wouldn't say to anybody not to be a certain way because there's enough going on in the world and self-care is important. So I think that's great that you're taking that attitude, but you still are concerned about these other things. I guess I should have wished you a happy birthday.
I thought you did.
Before. Did I? Did I say happy birthday? I don't know. Like my memory is shitty. Swear to God, I have like the worst memory ever. Yeah. But how old are you? Do you mind divulging that information?
Yeah, I'm 28.
Oh, well, fuck you. Okay. I mean, great. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't even 30
I'm always
yet.
gonna say
Jesus.
how old I am because I figure if I've been able to make it through enough years to be whatever age I am, I'm not gonna care if people know. So some people are like, "Oh, I don't want you to know how old I am because I'm insecure," and I'm like, I wish I was 25 for the rest of my life. It's like, well, you're not going to be 25 for the rest of your life, so get over it.
Well, see, there's your cynical coming out right there. So make up your fucking mind, man.
I mean, I think it's, like I said, like, I'm more of a realist than anything, or I try to be. So, I mean, like, I just feel like that's, I mean, what other approach can you have? You know, like, I'm 60, but I wish I was 40. But, you know, I won't tell anybody my age because then you'll think I'm really, really old. You know, like, I don't know. It's just dumb to me. I've never understood that. But, you know.
All right, well, I guess I should wrap up. Is there anything you want to tell, any, I don't know, thing you want to plug, anything you want to, whatever?
So, okay, I guess there's two things. I make music, and it is like, how can I describe it? Especially kind of like instrumental, hip-hop, electronic type stuff. And you can find that at barryorchestra.bandcamp.com. I also have a blog, and it is also about music because that is a thing that I'm very interested in and very passionate about. And that is barryorchestra.tumblr.com. And I don't always update it, but I tend to do like music rants or just like count my favorite songs of the year, that sort of thing. I've been doing it for a while, so it's fun for me.
Tumblr, I only use that for one thing, and it sure as hell ain't for that.
Hey, well, I liked Tumblr because like it had cool layouts, so that's why I opted to do that. I know people use it for dumb things.
Hey, wait a minute. There's nothing.
No shade to whatever you use it for. But I know what a lot of other people use it for, and you know, it's not for writing.
It's naked people.
It's definitely not for writing.
It's naked people. Okay, fine. It's naked people. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks
No
for shaming
judgment,
me.
man. No judgment.
Yeah. So I'll put links up to both of those in the show notes. I forgot about your music stuff.
Yeah, man. I need to put out some new stuff. I've been doing music for Cass's show for a while, but he needs some more material, so I got to get him some new stuff.
Yeah, he's the preeminent podcaster in Tennessee, I guess.
Cass is the best.
Kinda
I love Cass.
Atheist, skeptical podcaster. He's kind of like the Godfather.
Yeah.
You know?
He
are
fathered all you guys. You're his sons and daughters.
Yeah. I was on there, Jesus, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was a while back. Yeah, that was right after the Reason Con thing.
I don't know that. I don't think I've listened to that one. That must have been kind of old.
Oh yeah, it's pretty old. I don't remember what episode number it is, but it's pretty far back there.
I'll have to find that one.
It's under Chris Seethan Heathen, my old thing. I wouldn't use my regular.
Okay.
So yeah, go check it out and hear me wax eloquent about absolutely nothing important.
Yeah, like you always do.
Which is like I always do, exactly. Thanks for that. Thanks for that picking up. All right, Stephen. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
That'll do it for this episode of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. Thanks to Stephen Barry for coming on and talking to me. He's a great guy. Hopefully I'll get to see him again soon. Next NanoCon, but hopefully before that, because Chattanooga's not that far away. And I need to get out more. So, if you want to check out the show, of course, you can go to podunkpolymath.com. And of course, the music is by ... facebook.com/./62951461991. I meant to read the cdbaby.com link, which is cdbaby.com/cd/... but whatever. The new improved logo, was done by Jeff Prebick Jr. on Twitter as Pit Atheist. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Google Plus under the Podunk Polymath. Email me at podunk.polymath@gmail.com. Of course, you can join the Patreon posse, become a member, and for as little as $1 an episode, have the knowledge of knowing that you get to pay for something that most people probably don't want to listen to, but you do because you're cool, right? Right. Okay, so go to patreon.com/thepodunkpolymath. Of course, there's a call-in phone number, 615-378-POPO7676. Leave me a message if you are so inclined. Of course, you can also join the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse Facebook group. That's at facebook.com/the Podunk Podcast Posse, all separated by periods. And of course, now there's a Zazzle store, online store, which nobody goes to, which I don't blame you. Zazzle.com/podunk_polymath. Go check that out for me if you want to. On the sidebar there of the page, we have where you can follow me on WordPress, Twitter box, where you can follow me on Twitter and see my latest tweets, a PayPal donate button. Why do I keep doing that? Donate button, excuse me. You can subscribe on RSS, Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher on the sidebar. There are buttons for it. And, of course, there's a button for Patreon. You can like the page from that little widget that you see, if you would like, of course, and there's also recent posts and recent comments. Again, thank you everybody for listening to the show. I hope y'all enjoy it. I hope y'all are doing well, and I hope y'all are surviving through this fucking disaster that is the Trump presidency. I'm constantly amazed at how fucked up this guy. Just when you think he can't do anything dumber or more destructive, well, guess what? He does it now. He is apparently in a pissing contest with North Korea, because that's just what we need. World War III. That's always fun. And the ones that'll get the backlash are not even us, probably, because those missiles probably won't reach that far. It'll be South Korea and Japan who have to bear the brunt of that. So, good stuff. But yeah, let's definitely provoke some overgrown man-child. Oh, wait. Am I talking about Trump or the other guy? I don't know. They're both the same, apparently, so. All right, well, hopefully we'll get through this okay, and the world did not end today, unlike the prediction made by some dude said we're gonna end the world today. Well, we're still here, so. And before I forget, happy birthday to Stephen Barry, the guy who was on the show today. He is 28 or some ridiculously low age motherfucker. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, y'all take it easy now, okay?